but it's more of a toy horse this morning. And so the thick towel roll is going to allow us initially to dig into the inner legs where they come into the sitting bones. So I want you to move a little carefully this morning as we go through this, but I think what you're going to find ultimately is by digging into these areas, excavating into the adductors. And again, if you're just coming in, a few of them attach right under your sitting bones. Yowie. And so often if they get tight, pulls you into a slouch. And people go, oh, well, it's the hamstrings. It can be. They merge with the adductors. Also, working the inner legs can be super useful. So, towel roll, pretty thick, but it depends. Like Doreen may have a slightly less voluminous towel roll, and taller folks, or I should say longer legged folks, because my legs are short, my torso is long, maybe a little less. So moving the towel roll to the diameter that feels good. Also a strap with some sort of a loop. So ultimately we're going to stand up, we're going to take that loop around the upper leg and work it. And then we'll see what happens. So it should be interesting. If your chair seat is pretty hard, you'll also want something maybe to cushion it in addition to the towel roll, but we'll see. And if Andrea's here, yeah, I'll have to check. But modifications, if you've got some things going on, are always in play. So we'll start with our towel rolls just handy, but dropped, sitting in the chair. If you have some reservations about the chair, you could sit in cross-legged position of virasana. But try to stack your shoulders over your pelvis. And if you are in a chair, taking the knees wide allows you to immediately sense, even if you just take your hands and kind of get a tactile sense of these inner legs moving up. And if you have inner knee problems, could be meniscus, medial meniscus, but also could be one of the long muscles which attach to the sit bones, which hook right into the lower knee. Just get a sense of the inner legs, and you can take your toes out like a queen or a king. And then close your eyes and feel the sit bones as you just gently pour the weight into one, letting the breath settle down, and then pour the weight over into the other. So if you have to be seated for any length of time, often you suffer for various reasons, but one is people start to feel pain in the sitting bones. And Diane, who may have joined later and not be here, wanted me to give a whole workshop on the sit bone pain, which could be many things, but we'll take a look. So just leaning over, you feel the sitting bones, hopefully on some cushioning, whether it's a towel or cushion. And then close your eyes and feel whether you're equally weighted, which chances are you're not. Especially if you drive a car a lot, your right leg is going to be in a constant state of tension. And it's really hard to get it to relax. You have to tell it to relax. And the left leg, I'm mirror of you, but my left leg tends to get, for most people, right-handed, weak. So we have to work with those practical considerations constantly. But let's as we often do, just start to glide forward. We can take the toes out, lift the chest, inhale, and exhale. Roll back a little bit, with the palms. And just start to rock the pelvis back and forth, mildly engaging the core. As you inhale, take the knees wide. Again, feel this kind of lengthening open of the adductors. Any sorts of pain or knee, just be aware of that. And then roll the legs together, lean back. Just move to your own measure. Pardoning the musical pun. And bring the breath on the inhale a little bit up into the armpit ribs, as if you were taking your thumbs and wee. Really good. And let's just take a forward fold from here. And you can either stay seated or lift your hips up halfway, drop your head. And notice the arches of your feet, whether the inner arches are collapsing. If so, try to lift and flare them out, like you're pushing your knees apart a little bit without moving them apart, lifting through the inner arch of the foot, and then folding a little deeper without needing to straighten the legs right away. And then bend the knees halfway again. Come up to chair pose with wide spread feet. And again, working on lengthening the adductors, and in this case, firming up if you were to take your hands to your outer legs and push out. These are your lateral supports. Lengthen here. And then have a seat. This time, we're going to grab our towel rolls. And pretty big, but depends. And we're going to take it under the, hopefully I'm mirroring you, onto the right side of the seat. So this would be center, riding on my horse. I'm going to shift. So I'm on the inner edge of this right leg. And then we're going to start to glide this right leg out, almost like a gate pose or side angle. And you don't even have to straighten this leg, but just start to gently lean away from the towel roll, but push, keep some weight down into this towel roll, breathe into that. So, as is the case in my local Mexican restaurant, they ask you if you want hot, medium, or mild sauce. So each of these, depending on your body, your state of awakeness, this would be mild, just kind of leaning and then putting the weight on that towel. We're opening up space in that adductor, just kind of connecting in there. Some of you already figure out, well, I can kind of start to straighten that extended leg and get into it a little bit, but still warming up. Can we shift towel roll over to the other side, left, and then just kind of start to lean a little bit. Andrea, I didn't see when you came in, if you're here. I want you to be really careful of side bending. I want you to really stick more upright. Start to extend the other leg. And I'm really just keeping gravity to open that leg. Start to go over. I love the lawnmower is starting his serenade. And then again, of course, you could go deeper, but if you get too aggressive, you may get a rebound effect in the muscle. Up and pull and tighten. So with the yin yoga opener, if you want to breathe, have awareness in that muscle and allow it to soften over the prop. Sure, this is side angle, right? But if we get into the performance mode, we may lose the tactile awareness. Okay, so can we just do that again and shift over? Of course, you wouldn't really need a chair. You could do this on the ground if you're so inclined. But it would be a little bit different. It would be like a gate pose, right? So I'd rather you stuck in the chair for now. We'll get down to the ground in a bit. Do each side, and I'm just going to close my windows. So once again, if you're coming in late, we're just working the adductors. Take the towel roll over to one side, start to lean away, but just feel this pressure down, opening up these inner leg muscles. But it also, in the end, pays off dividends because once you've opened up the adductors, the other leg's getting a little more openness. So when the instructor comes around and says, your knee is caving in, you get deep enough too, you're getting a little bit of a pull just by virtue of having that inner leg tapping the chair. So one more time, then we won't labor this. Again, this is great PT if you've got some sort of issue going on in your sit bones. This could be your medicine. You start just mildly, kind of get into the goodies, so to speak. And then you just see, and Andrew, you're not going to, particularly to that right side. Okay, so let's remove this towel roll for a second. Sit again and feel, if you can't, you just close your eyes. There's a little sensation in the inner legs, which energetically, as you start to fold forward, keeping the inner legs open, energetically is a conduit, proposed conduit of the inner arch. Up into the belly, you can fold to your own measure. Keep a sense of openness in the inner leg. You can even lift your heels up and put them down again. Advanced students, of course, are tempted to grab the chair in the front or the back, but we're not really concerned with going too deep as yet. Okay, so let's come up off of our chair, taking our hands to our knees. And again, we want to have the sense of length in the inner groins. And low backs can be traction nicely. Don't turn the toes straight out like you did in ballet, but no more than 45. And working to your own hips measure, and then you're going to take the hands to the tops of the knees and just sit down. Drop the chin and just allow the low back to lengthen. You get some traction of the rib cage away from the descending pelvis. And you slowly start to rotate right. And that left hand's just gently guiding this adductor, the inner leg, away. And then inhale the center and then the other way. Just open up those inner legs. Now we feel the usefulness for the tractioning of the low back. You go back a few times. Make sure your heels are plugged in and your sit bones are descending. When we sit down on that chair again, go back to our, without the towel roll, our side angle. And you can always keep the knee bent. And this time we're going to just take both hands to that front or bent knee. And you can either keep the left leg extended with the heel, or you can rotate the hips by lifting the heel. See if you can take your left hand to the front knee and reach back for a little mild twist with the right arm. Then we'll go to the other side, and you can be modest and just be here, or you can extend and lengthen this adductor. Or if that's too much, on low back adductor, you can take the heel up, rotate, take the right hand to the front knee, the left arm to the back of the chair. Back to center. And once again, spilling forward, either with the arms just resting on the knees, if it's that kind of morning, or hands down. Now I'm going to lift the hips and take a mild forward fold coming off the chair. Don't be in a rush to straighten the legs. Then your knees come up to standing. Okay? So now we're going to take the chair like so, and you're going to love me or hate me for this, but this is for the low back people. Take some padding on the chair if you need it, or take most of the padding on the edge that's near to you. So now we're going to just plunk down, walk the knees back just slightly. See if you can come here with your forearms. We're going to drop the hips down. So this is for most cases of low back distress. I'm going to put my belly right into the towel roll on the edge of the chair and walk the knees back. If your chair is too high, you could take a couple cushions and do this with your belly on the cushions. But if you can now, you can just, like we're doing cat and cow, but we've got a support for our whole ribs. And then we're just going to do a drop, kind of a face plant. But make sure, so if someone, your significant other or therapist were coming by, they would be sliding your tailbone and the fibers of your low back down into a posterior tilt. So don't lift your butt up in the air. It's a lot like your back sliding off the back of the chair. Sliding, walking the knees back. Propping the head. It should feel good. But modify. Crawl back up. And I'm just going to walk my chair a little further forward because I want to be able to extend my legs. So here I go over the towel roll, and you could be doing cat and cow here. Now as you have some information, as you do cat pose and head drops and the pelvis tilts down, your frontal hip bones may catch the back edge of the chair. And then can you take the right leg back with the toes tucked under, look down, and get a mild strength through the arms, spreading the fingers, spreading the collarbones and the chest. And just stretching that extended leg, and then just switch sides. We're keeping the hip bones, the frontal hip bones, plastered and even in symmetry. And even though you're extending the leg, I want you to feel strength through the back of the leg, the hamstring. And just go for a little walk, crawl. So when the leg goes back, toes are tucked under, I'm going to fire this back of this leg. Here's my strength work. Pretty easy peasy, but you can push down into the tucked under toes, you can push into the arms, and you're getting a a nice tone that's safe for the low back. Okay. Well, how about if we come up for a second on our forearms and now take a peek. I'm going to launch my body a little further forward. And, uh-oh, what's happening now? I have a plank pose. So, but I have the hips supported by the chair, and please take the towel roll where it's uncomfortable. And there's not much pressure in my hands. And the backs of the legs are both fired up now, but I can also bend the knees and drop the head, just ragdoll over the chair. Again, letting the fibers of the low back drift back, and then fire up the backs of the legs. As you do this, think of energetically moving the upper leg bones apart, like you're pushing out. Remember that whole quest we had earlier to fire the outer legs. So the inner legs can still be kind of trying to lengthen and then just drop. So this is like advanced cat-cow. And it's not a lot of work if you get the geometry right to achieve a plank pose, keeping a slight drop of the tailbone or press of the frontal hip bones into the chair. And again, this could be good work to strengthen the back line and then stretch it. Any of this stuff that feels really good, you can just stay with it. But then the next iteration is to go even further over. Oh boy. And if I'm near a wall, I can take my feet to the wall too, like so. Or I can just have the feet down. A little further over now. And from here, I can do some mild dips, like a push-up, chaturanga, but there's no danger of the shoulders getting whacked. And the legs could be, at this point, free-floating. I could just drop my entire head down. And now the hips have come potentially to the other side of the front side of the chair. So this is the advance for the advanced people now. The feet are floating or against the wall, and the backs of the legs are strong, and there's a little outward push. And here's your work with strengthening the back line, and then just drop it. Maybe the forearms, and up and down you go. Superwoman, Superman, whatever. But remember this outward press to engage the lateral body. The outer legs, you're trying to scissor out. The inner legs can remain open. And this is strengthening for people with a low back. What I don't want you to do is arch the low back here. That's why we keep those inner legs lengthening, the outward push of the legs. So you can do this till the cows come home. Or let's just slide back a little bit where we had our second permutation, or actually our first. And then guess what? From here, look at your fingers, spread them. How about downward dog, walking your feet in? Your tucked chin is just gonna come into the front of the chair. And then walk your feet back a little, bend your knees, and hang out again. You can hold your elbows. And then come up, and hopefully you're not cursing me for the chair work. But if you get the right chair, so good. So now we're going to take the chair, high part of the chair away. towel roll again for the frontal hip bones right here. Now can we just take our, similar to where we just were, and then we can tuck the tops of the feet back. Maybe put our forehead on the seat top, in the back of the chair. We want to get again, the fibers of the low back descending down. I don't want to arch the low back. Wherever I am, I could come up onto my forearms here and get some space between my rib cage and my hips. Really pushing down into the shins now. Keeping a little bit of that push into the towel roll. This is completely up to you in terms of how far you go. One could even be against a wall, right? Turn around, be against a wall and do that sort of work if you get creative. But remember those inner legs lengthening and the outer legs pushing out. Okay? So can you come back like so? And we can hold the sides of the chair, curl the toes under. Downward dog. And the knees, lengthen the arms. Push into the big toe mounds and lift the inner arches of the feet. Come forward to high plank on your chair. And then back to downward dog. Just start to work this. But keeping the sensations we created in the legs. If you want to add a piece, you can take one leg back. And I like the wall, but you could have a free floating leg and try the other leg. Close to the wall for that. So, downward dog, and then let's come down one last time to your knees. And take the towel roll to the chair and then put our elbows on it, walk our knees back. So once again, I don't want to kick my butt out like that. It's tempting. I want to just drop it, drop the forehead, palms together, draw the belly in, drag the hips back. I can take the arms forward and grab the side of the chair back. Do it that way. Okay, so let's come up one last one and we'll come into the chair or pull it toward us. Back. And see if you can put your forearms down, again, hips drop, 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 or up. Move the hands down, push away. Okay, so let's, for the moment, lose the chairs. And I'll record this one because there's little bits and pieces to it, but I think useful. And now let's see if we go into our child's pose, how the inner legs feel, how the low back feels.
And then coming up to hands and knees, remembering that we moments ago had this whole chair under the ribs. And so that attenuation and also the movement, remember how the frontal hips felt pushing into the chair and the armpits lifting. And keep that attenuation as you curl the toes under, come to downward dog, dropping the arms, or the head within the arms rather. And looking back at the feet, bend the knees and just lift the inner arches up, inhale, and then drop the outer heels down, or at least engaging the outer legs. Come forward to high plank, and then drop down to your knees. And let's take that left leg back, and then turn the toes out. Come up onto your left fingers, prop up. And now, similar to what we did earlier on the chair, if we had towel under this extended leg hip, can you have a sense of uplift from it? Uplift. So that you're getting extension through that leg. Stay here, our advanced students, upper hand to hip, reach forward with the lower fingers, and then drag those fingers, yourself toward those fingers and lift the back leg with all the attenuation of the inner leg. So Ardha Chandrasana, and the inner edge of the foot is lengthening in sympathy or synchronicity with this inner leg. Let's come down and try the other side. Right leg back, first on the toes, and then dropping the heel inward, come up on the right fingertips. And as you come up, really engage dynamically as if there's that towel under this back inner hip, those adductors, lengthening. So even if you're just here. Advanced students, upper hand to hip, lower fingertips walk forward, and you just drag and lengthen through the inside of the leg. And then come down and make your way to child's pose. So if you do have low back issues and the going to the side created some distress, that's when you know, well, for now you have to do straight line work. Planks, downward dog, whatever. Okay, so let's from here stand up. And now we're going to use those straps and see what we can do with the strap. So get your strap loop and you can measure your hamstring and put your right leg through that strap. Just come right up into that area we're working. And it's good to have a pretty tight cinch, that strap, okay? If you're near a wall, your cinched leg, your right leg could be back against, heel against the wall to come into a warrior two. But watch first, I'm gonna take this strap and I'm gonna take it inside the leg, right? And then hope your strap is long enough. Do your best job. If it's not, you can always grab the loop of the strap, the back with your hand. But if you've got a long strap and you hoist up the same arm and start straight the front leg, that's going to do is get an inward roll of the back thigh and an uplift in the same manner we had with the towel. We were sitting on our towel. We're getting a dynamic connection in this back leg.
triangle pose. Now watch, I could take the strap around my shoulder now with a little elf and the dwarf and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Off to work we go. And as you know, the jokes don't get any better. And now I can start to bend into the front knee and just reach down, and I'm pulling. We're getting a connection in this back of the leg. Now, of course, advanced students, you could move into Ardha Chandrasana. You might want a chair if you're not super savvy. And we're getting a hoist up of the back leg. Not too high, but lengthening that adductor. Let's come down and keep the strap on that right leg, but let's pivot to parallel feet. If you're not super bendy, you can have a chair in front of you, otherwise hands to hips. And rolling the inner legs through, so the same spiral. The hands are, and then hands to the floor, lift a flat back, and fold. Again, as you inhale, come to flat back again, feel the big toe mounds push, and lengthen right up through the inner arch into the inner leg. And then exhale, drop. And see if you can drop, anchor in the outer heels. Go as deep as you want. But notice the inner legs and whether they are actively, dynamically lengthening here. It's interesting if you have a tear in your sit bone. Some teachers, and I've been guilty of this, say bend your knees. That can actually put more pressure up in the hamstring at the insertion of the sit bone. So straight legs, even if you can't fold your body, your upper body down, might be superior. And then you're actually working the hamstrings dynamically, like we did in hands and knees, even as you stretch them. Flat back, exhale, hands to hips. And so when I come up, I have to have that engagement of the hammies to help pull me up. Okay, so let's turn, even though we have our strap now, still around that right foot, come to side angle. And so here we have some options. We can take your strap into the back hand and use it to pull back, or even send back. Or you can just hook your fingers inside the strap loop behind you and draw back. But now that adductor's getting some length. So when you're in your beginning yoga classes, the teacher says, oh, we'll take that elbow on the knee and push the knee out. Well, maybe, but really we're trying to get this length from the sit bone way underneath all the way through to the knee. Let's come up. Take that little loop to the other side. This is pretty specific work, but I think you're going to feel rewarded after the fact. Now the left leg is going to go into it way up high. And if you've got any injuries in the hip bone, you may want to experiment more with this upper leg strap work. So left leg to wall, or strap leg to wall. And you're going to take the strap loop through inside that leg and hold it with the same arm that the leg has, and just hoist up So by pulling up on the strap, it's rolling the adductor through center. Okay, and I'm getting a lift. Beam me up, Star Trek episode. Instead of crushing down into the inner legs. So this could be just feel heavenly. If you had some sort of hook on your ceiling and you just pulled yourself up and hung from this, might be a good thing. I think they have this in windsurfing. But we can also take the strap and loop it around the shoulder. Now you can see the back that's coming up. Don't go into your butt, inner butt, then outer butt. Okay, and then we can start to dive into triangle pose here. That uplift and that dynamic stretching the inner leg. And then we went into side angle here, looking down. Okay, so the option for the advanced folks was either to just come right into Ardha Chandrasana or finagle your chair. What you don't want is to lose this attenuation from the strap into the leg. So as I come up, I'm not trying to ballerina my way that high with the back leg. I'm hanging the inner leg on the strap tension and then moving away toward the inner heel. And then the feet to parallel. Hands to hips, inhale, and exhale, fold. Again, if your hamstrings are tight, you're here, you're happy. But remember when we had the chair here, and I said, put your frontal hip bones into the chair, right? So you have a chair that was going in here somehow. So the inner leg's rolling back, sit bone dropping. I'm getting this nice expansion of the inner legs and then kicking to the outer heels. Who cares if I can drop? But I'm also dynamically firing the hamstrings, which presumably yoga people want to stretch. Sure, you know, for yoga, you can stretch your hamstrings and put your head to the floor. But I'm not sure what that gains you if you have overstretched hamstrings. As you get older, you want to keep those hammies tight in an educated way. And today we're working with the inner leg to back of leg work. So again, working here, but the legs are really strong. Hamstrings engage, inner thighs lengthening, and I'm sweating just doing this. Come up. Don't heel your feet together. And remove the strap. So having awareness of the inner legs is super handy for all sorts of yoga poses. And now we can lose most of the props for the moment, but keep your chair nearby. Let's take a forward fold now and just study the soles of the feet, the inner and outer edges. And remember when you had your body, if you come down to Malasana for a second, to a squat, when we had our bodies over the chair this way,
and have dropped into a little posterior tilt. So when you forward fold, it's important, low back people, that there's a little bit of that just droppiness. And that's why we do the forward fold against the wall occasionally, which we're going to do now, with the option of standing on the towel roll. If you don't have the wall, it's okay, you can just have the towel roll under the soles of the feet. And this is going to give you a little more sense of these inner arches as you fold. The lift through the inner part of the sole of the foot. Exhale, releasing the outer hips. So if you're doing it against the wall, of course, you're going to bend your knees quite a bit. Then try to lean into the wall. And just, it's the similar feeling as we have laying our chests and hips over the chair. I'm just going to drape down here. My low back is just combing it down. I ended up straightening my legs. I want a sense of uplift through the inner legs. Okay. Back away from the wall, come up with a rounded spine. And just a little bit of work, either on the towel roll or not. Lifting the heels as you inhale, reaching up the wall and sinking down. And as you do this, we've done it many times. Can you feel as you lift your heels, the toe mounds and the length in the inner legs, and a little bit of, like I'm pushing outward in the upper legs. As I come into an extended pattern, and then drag down, drop the heels. Lift, and drop. One more. Drop. So when you drop into chair pose, as we did earlier, what's going on? Are the knees collapsing together? Or is this sense, remember I had you take your hands here, push out, and have a sense of the inner legs as if you're skiing on the ski slopes, being happy with the sit bones. Okay, so let's see if we can take our chairs one last time into some mild back bending. And we're gonna come down onto our shins and have our hands on the back of the chair. So if I drop back and put my sacrum on the front edge of the chair, pat it if you need to. I'm again kind of replicating when we had a chair in this pattern. And some people wondering, well, it's really slouching, but I'm getting the low back to be in a happy pattern. Where I start to come up and right. Now, if you've got the feet, start again inside the chair legs. You're going to be pushing out toward the chair legs with the feet and the legs, that action of pushing out. And so that these inner legs that we work so much on are brightening and the strength back here. So beginners, you're just gonna boom, and then inhale, push out with the legs, and all the ribs come up a little bit. But keep your hands to your low back. Keep your tailbone down. That's your work. But otherwise, you can kind of walk forward a little bit more and take the back of the diaphragm, which is about the upper kidneys, and sink down onto our heels. Now, if you need to modify with the towel roll between your legs, top of your heels, do it like that. So looking down, and if you want to take it further, you can even grab the chair legs and start to bow down into rabbit pose. So once again, the low back, we don't want to bring it into too much arch as we move toward back bending at the end of class. But keeping that rounded pattern to start with, keeping that drop, and then starting to brighten. Lean back into the chair, you can feel those back ribs starting to be lifting up like a slinky, expanding slinky. You can push your palms down into the chair a little. This could be it. Otherwise, boom. And as you come forward, again, pushing out the shin bones, the upper leg bones. Okay, so I'm taking this progressively, walk forward a little bit more, keep your towel roll with you. And so if you're more of a beginner, you're like, well, that was good, but it's getting a little too racy. So now I'm right under the shoulder blades. Could you do this with your legs crossed instead of having your knees get tortured? You could. Here's where the Iyengar teachers will have you do this weird thing, and they'll take the strap loop around the knees to rein them in and have you push against your strap loop with the sensation I was trying to create earlier. But I tend not to want to do that because every body's a little different. So, can we now keep the fascia of the low back heading forward, and then take the hands to the head and just start to come back a little, and keep the chin tucked and just have a sense of spreading and lifting the collarbones, tailbone down, knees pushing out. Maybe you can get all the way to the back of the chair with your head. Relax your jaw a little bit. And how do those inner legs feel now? They get a little gummy. So we're moving towards a posture called Supta Virasana. But this could be perfectly happy. Stay there and be super satisfied. But those that must do a full pose and think they can of course do it just to show you how it looks. You roll your calf muscles away. And if you can get your hips to the ground without the towel, you do. For a lot of people, the knees no. And first thing is I'm going to shift my hips forward because I want to get that tailbone under. Oh. Same thing, basically. And the inner legs lengthening. Aha. How'd that feel? When I get down, if I do, and this is for the super advanced people, it's almost like I'm going to pull my pants now up. And what am I doing? Remember the strap in the inner leg? Pulling up through those inguinal area, like I'm doing the Heimlich maneuver to my frontal hip bones, pulling upward to lengthen the inner legs. Ah. That's for the advanced people. Let's come down and start to think about calling it a day. Since we did some back bending, if you want to take a forward fold or a child's pose before we enter a bridge and maybe wheel, you can. But let's lie down for the moment, straighten the legs, and check in, letting the toes drop out. Take the hands to the belly and feel the sensations that may have been created by today's work. So you should feel fairly activated in the inner leg. Bend the knees, take a figure four, right ankle cross, left knee, and just pull it in. Move that right hip away from you, the right, not so much the right knee, but the hip. So you could stay that way or take the shin, right shin with the two hands, the ankle and the knee, and glide your left leg forward for an inverted half pigeon. And push into your hands. Push into your hands, moving the shin away instead of pulling toward you. And then let's switch and take a figure four left side. First, pulling your figure four toward you, but then moving the bent knee hip away. Let's see what I'm doing with my hand here. Beginner, stay there, otherwise transfer hands to the bent knee shin. And instead of trying to pull it toward you, we used to do these things with the head. Throw the leg behind the head. Why? And instead we'll water ski the shin away and get strength and length. Relax the legs, see how they feel. Pull the right knee in again, strap it up, hoist it up, and take the strap ends into your right hand. Start to open that right leg out to the side. Really feel the inner leg since we've done the work there. So moving from the inner leg out. Come back to center, switch. Left leg, left hand, push and then lengthen. And lengthening this inner left leg. Come back to center, leg straight, rest. Maybe a bridge and wheel, otherwise a little more time in Shavasana. So if you're doing your bridge to wheel or just bridge, first pulling the knees in, giving a squeeze. Again, we're getting the slight posterior tilt of the tailbone, or at least keeping that fascia long, planting the feet, arms long, and then we lift the hips up and push the knees forward, but move from the inner knee. So these same points we have the straps. So those adductors trying to press forward, like we're being dragged from the inner knee forward. Slow shoulder blades sliding under. Chest opening, maybe the arms reach up and back, fingernails drag back, and then wheel. Come down, hug the knees. Supta Baddha Konasana for a few breaths, soles of feet together. And then lengthening the legs, resting. Since Hillary's here, I know that she's probably rolling back to cloud pose against the wall, or any inversions you want to add before we close off class. Then we'll bend the knees when you're ready and check in with the low back, maybe move it sacrum forward and back, and roll to one side and come up to seated. So this work with the adductors, we didn't even do Baddha Konasana or Upavishta, which can be brutal on the low back. So we avoided those, and yet, can you feel a sense of openness in the inner legs as you come to sit? Again, the inner legs, which are also connected with anxiety or fear, can be in a constant twittery state. If we strengthen, lengthen, and when you sit, sitting bones should feel good and grounded, palms to heart.